Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we will be going over the top 10 base spots on 6-man. This list is subjective. I believe everyone has an opinion to each their own on what are the top 10 base spots. Without a further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so the first spot, which is placed at number 10, we have 9090 Plat on Gen 2. This base spot is really good for starting up because obviously it's Gen 2. You have good alley, you have the Genesis 2-point system where you can just raise dinos very easily because you can buy meat and berries. The Plat itself, it's a little bit easy to build, I would say, because it's flat for the most part. Unlike some other base spots where you have to use cliff plats and triangle foundations and other sorts of things. The base spot is really good because it has potential for you to be able to place towers. I've seen some 9090s where they have like 20 to 30 towers. The base spot has fallen down in popularity, but I believe it's still a decent base spot. I mean, it's a land base spot. If you're online, you can deal with Quetzals and skivs relatively easy. And it's Gen 2, so whatever they soak, you can easily refill. You know, it's not like detrimental as like any other map where elements are harder to get. As far as breeding goes, you can't really fit breeders on the plat, but if you build towers below, you can. It's workable. It's manageable. Like the little breeding stations. In some base tours, I've seen that they actually use like there's like a shelf on 9090 and you can fit breeders on there, and it's pretty nice because you can also put cloners and stuff. I've seen a lot of tribes where they use it for raising, and I've even seen it in one case where one tribe built a gotcha tower on that little shelf. Overall, the base spot I believe has like a lot of pros. One of the pros also is you might be able to avoid tax in the spot, even though it's not the alpha spot on Gen 2. Well, Cube is. Depending how fat you build it, you might be able to just avoid tax, because if you have like 20 to 30 towers, most likely Cube will pivot away from taxing and starting a war. Another pro I would consider is that there's no near spawn locations to scout 9090, so that can be kind of annoying to scout. Alright, so what are the cons to this base spot? So with it being Gen 2, it's a double-edged sword because while you have a lot of LE, it's also easy for an enemy, if they want to fob you, for them to have thousands of LE. On top of that, all the tech turrets that an enemy places on their Fortnite will be capped because it's easy element, so that'll be annoying to soak. The actual 9090 plat can be Fortnited from 3 sides. And depending how fat you build your 9090, if you push out turret towers far enough from 2 renders, it's allowed for 2 tribes to fob you because it's considered 2 different base locations until they're in the same render as the main. So overall, this base spot is really good. The only way I see it could be better is if the plat was high enough so it couldn't be Fortnited. That would make it way better. Alright, so next up on the list, we have number 9. For this list, I put 3 base spots because I believe they are very similar. So for the first one for number 9, we have Needle. This one's really good because obviously, once again, element is really easy on Gen 2, so easy to start up. It's almost impossible to raid online if you defend it right, because you can only push up turrets so much. You can't have like a proper Fortnite. Alright, the next one for number 9 is South Pillar. This one's really good because it's hard to Fortnite. It is possible to Fortnite, but it's extremely hard. And I would say it's the second best pillar on Gen 1. You can easily hold this spot online by yourself. Alright, so for the third one for number 9, we have Corner Pillar. This one's a very popular spot. You can defend this online pretty much solo. You can push a Fortnite on this base, but you can only push it so much because at some point it's gonna be too high above ground, and you'll never actually be able to properly walk a racer or a stego onto the plat. You have to grab nade to get onto it, so it's really strong. Definitely defend this solo. without a doubt. The problem with spots from number 9 are that they can easily be offlined. They also don't have space for breeding or raising. But other than that, online they're pretty much almost impossible to raid online if you defend it properly. The other con I see for the spots I listed in number 9 are that if you build them slightly wrong, they can get raided very easily as well. Next on the list, we have number 8, which is North Ice on center. This cave is good for those who do not know. It has 3 major choke points on the big side. It has a moon pool in the first big room. Then it has a water choke. Then it has another moon pool. Then after that, it has a drop down. So it has a lot of choke points compared to most caves that have maybe 1 or 2 chokes. It has a lot of space for water breeding and normal breeding. Another pro I consider is the base spot is like really cancer to raids, so most likely you won't get grieved. You only really get fobbed in a North Ice, so I consider that a pro. Downside also to that is if someone does fob you, more likely than not they're there to wipe you and are willing to spend more than a day fobbing you. Another pro is this base spot can hold offline for way longer than any other cave. With a good team, I would say it would take around 4-ish hours to wipe a North Ice offline, which is great because a lot of caves can get offline within an hour or so. So what are the cons to this base? Before, North Ice was a really strong spot, but with the new metas and raiding methods that exist today, it has fallen really short as one of the best base spots in the game. The most common raiding methods that are used are grapple glitch, which is used, almost in every cave. You also have mech rush, and you could also mana rocket run and shadow main rocket run, technically. It is possible to get online out of a North Ice, but it really comes down to who's defending it. Replacing is probably what's gonna save you from getting online out of a North Ice. And another con is element can be hard to get a lot of. You're most likely gonna have to make a gotcha tower and script it and run it passively rather than do boss fights, because the boss fights don't give you that much element. But overall, if you can get past those cons, it's still a very strong base spot. But at the same time, it still comes down to who's defending it once again. Next on the list, we have number 7, which is Easy Underwater. It has a lot of potential. It's an underwater spot that has the ability for you to place towers. A lot of people on Smalltribes don't have water dinos, so that's already a pro in itself. The base spot has a lot of space. That's another pro. So what are the cons to this base? The cons to this base are that getting a lot of element is hard. Personally, I haven't ever played in an Easy Underwater, but it seems like a very strong spot and have seen people defend it for hours. But yeah, mainly back to the element issue is technically, since your element count is very low, you can get soaked out of it. But if you can get past that issue, I believe you can hold an Easy Underwater relatively easy. You probably don't need more than 2 people to hold it. But overall, a good base spot with a lot of potential. Next on the list, number 6, we have Island Ice Cave. This is a very popular spot. For those who do not know, it's a crouch cave. You can defend it relatively easy with 1 person. You might need more depending on the enemy team if they're good. So what are the pros to this base spot? One of the pros is you have a lot of space for breeding and raising. Another pro in this cave is that you can fit more than just 1 wall and have very decent chokes. I believe this base spot has a lot of cons while still being a decent cave, but with the new raiding methods that are out, the cave has also fallen short at being one of the best base spots because you have grapple glitch. Offline, you could raid it nowadays, you could raid it within an hour with a good team, or at least drop the first wall within the first hour. Another con is that it's possible to get online raided out of an ice cave because of the new dinos, such as bats. and Andrew Sarchis if you turn all of your turrets to survivors only. Actually, I've been in an instance where my tribe almost online wiped an ice cave. We had gotten past the front wall with an Andrew Sarchis, and we were so close to wiping the ice cave, but we pulled that. I'll link the video in the description. But overall, Island Ice is a great spot. But at the same time, in my opinion, I believe the base spot is overrated. There's a lot better base spots nowadays. Alright, so next on the list we have number 5, which is Cube on Gen 2. This is considered the alpha spot on Gen 2. Once again, what's great about this base spot is it is easy LE because it's Gen 2, so soaking turrets is going to be quite literally impossible. But it's relatively easy to defend. And actually, a fun fact is when it first came out, it used to be actually trash because the whole thing was 6x. And then right before transfers dropped, they released an update that made it so it turned into 1x damage. Also, I believe that's what makes it a great spot is that you can't rocket run since it's 1x damage. Another pro is that if you block off all the entrances, you basically have all the underwater to yourself, so you can set up ocean platforms above your base if you don't want to resort to vents for breeding and raising. Also, another pro is a lot of tribes don't have underwater dinos, so once again, like easy underwater is a lot of people won't grief you or fob you. So what is the major cons to this base is that there's no space. You can realistically only really fit a war room inside of it, maybe a little greenhouse and a crafting. But you definitely won't be able to fit any breeders inside of it, which leads us to the next point. So a lot of tribes, they like to block off all the entrances into the underwater. That is good, but realistically, if a mega tribe wants to go deep on your cube, they'll just fob with 6 tribes and steamroll all of your water entrances, and all your breeders above your cube will get meran relatively quick because you can just raft cheese all the ocean plats. I've never played in a cube, but overall it seems like a good base. I definitely do think that it is overrated. Alright, so next on the list we have number 4, Shadow Cave on Aberration. I believe this base spot is incredibly strong, and I would even argue that the limited dinos makes the base spot even better, which is what a lot of players hate. For those who do not know, the Shadow Cave has 3 choke points. It has a water choke, which on Aberration is incredibly good because there's no water dinos that are allowed, and on top of that, there's no Rexes. You have to use Drakes, which is cancer to use underwater. So even breaking tech turrets is almost impossible. You'd have to soak it out or send in C4 carbos. But even then, that's online. You can easily deal with that since it's 1x. It just wouldn't be worth, to be honest. And even the inner part outside of the water is even hard to wipe. It's a really good choke. On top of that, even after you wipe that, there's a crouch, and it can be very hard to cheese. So what are the major pros to this base spot? You have access to lots of metal. It is the best map for farming metal. There's actually a lot of space for breeding in the cave. You could easily fit breeders, raising, forge area, crafting station, war room, everything you ever need. Greenhouse in the cave. And even in some cases, I've seen some people build a gotcha tower inside of the cave. So the cons to this base are on Aberration, meshing is very common. You also have to deal with nameless spawning in your base. You constantly have to wear a light pet, or nameless can spawn. What some tribes do is they spam Plan Z's around the base, the crop plot, and that should help with some of the nameless from spawning in. Another con is it's very hard to get element. You're gonna have to resort to element dust, to be honest, because the normal way of farming element on Aberration is just terrible. It's just not worth. And obviously another con is you can't use certain dinos on Ab, which, I mean, I guess it also makes the base spot a little bit stronger. Overall, this base spot is extremely strong. I definitely would play in one if I had the chance to. I feel like a lot of people ignore the base spot because it is Aberration and it's known for a PvE map. poor element and other issues. Also, I'd like to mention as addition of the new dinos such as the Andrews Arches and the Bat, this base spot has, in my opinion, risen as one of the best base locations. Alright, so next we have number 3, Pro Cave on Center. This is actually my favorite base spot on Arc. It has so much potential. Even with the new raiding methods that exist today, it's still a decent cave. There's many ways to defend it so you don't get cheesed. So like grapple glitch, Dino Rush. Alright, so what are the pros to this base? You have access to water breeding. You have 2 sides of the cave. One side of the cave you use for war room. The other side you could use for breeding and raising. So with the second room being the hunter side, you can, even if your pro cave wall gets dropped, you can still hold the cave because that's also a decent choke. So there's still something to fall back even if it gets wiped. One of the cons to pro cave is that you can't place a tower outside of the cave or in front like you wouldn't be able to like in Lost Island Crouch, because majority of the island in front of the cave is 6x, which I mean I guess it could be a good thing. So clearing fobs, you could easily tech tape rush, you could mech rush. It's very easy to push fobs basically from the outside. So if you just have an outside TP, you could easily deal with fobs in a matter of minutes. So overall, I would definitely live in a pro cave without a freaking doubt. It is such an easy spot to defend. It's almost nearly impossible to get online out of a pro cave unless you're defending it like crap. Also, one thing I would like to mention is that a carbo can't fit through the main choke, which is pretty good. So you can't C4 a carbo or anything like that, like you can in almost every other cave. Alright, next up on the list we have number 2, which is Tree on Extinction. This base spot is extremely OP, and I would consider it probably one of the best bases for if you're offline, or if you have a fat offline on Smalltribes, because the way if you build it, so if you place a bunch of towers and walls so you can't owl dive, basically it makes it so they have to drop the towers before they can even skip to your main. And in a lot of bases, land bases especially, you can skip the towers usually when someone's offline. So that's why I consider Tree also one of the best bases for offline. Also, another thing is with the addition of the net gun, it makes Tree such a better base spot because you could just knock down Quetzals all the way to the bottom, and you just, by the time they cut it, bring it back, fly it back up, you can just net it again. And yeah, it's actually, Tree has gotten a lot stronger since Gen 2 in my opinion. It's an element map, so capping out turrets and stuff, it's very easy. You have lots of space. If you place walls, you can easily, behind the walls, what some people do is they just set up gotcha towers, or what you can also do is just do raising and breeding below the tree, so you don't have to have raising and breeding inside the tree above, so you don't have to worry about having low frames in your base. So overall, this base is really strong online, like it's really strong. And the only downside I see to this base spot is that you can be double fobbed. Other than that, I don't see a downside. I think it could almost be number 1 best base spot, but that's up for debate. Finally, we have number 1, Big Lunar on Gen 1. This is considerably the best base spot on Smalltribes, and for many reasons. 1, the towers defend themselves. Because of the lunar biome, dinos get knocked back. Only certain dinos are immune to that, such as Megatron's, Brontos. You can also use Skiff and Stego to soak, or Sleepy Carbos or Sleepy Stegos. Another way is if you can somehow get a racer on the plat, you can do maybe a gate racer build. And so what are the cons to this base? The cons to this base is, once again, just like Tree, I'm pretty sure you can get double fobbed, but I might be mistaken. Another con is it takes a lot of resources to cover the full island with towers. It's a lot of A or B, mostly at turrets, and other structures, and also it's a lot of work to build it, not only all the towers but to have them all snapped on one snap point, preferably, because you might be able to get away without them being on the same snap point, but the big lunar is just so much better with it all being on one snap. That way you can build proper Fortnite when you get fobbed. But overall, when a big lunar is fully built, it is the best base location, because you need to be able to get a fob on the island, and even then you still have to go through so many towers. It's almost impossible to get wiped out of a big lunar unless you're just straight up fucking like just dog shit. I will advise though, if you do live in a big lunar or you happen to get one, you should be in an alliance, because you might get focused, as this is the most contested base spot on Smalltribes. Comment down what you guys think I could have done differently as far as like the list goes, or if you want to make your own list. I pretty made this list subjective, what I believe are the best base spots. Most of the ones I've listed in the video I've played in and I've defended them. I also didn't mention certain base spots which some people might have gotten mad that I didn't include, such as Lab Cave on Fjorder, Lost Island Crouch, and Swamp Cave on Fjorder, I believe. Alright, thank you guys for watching today's video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.
I'm gonna sit in here.
Okay, who likes Fortnite?
We like Fortnite. 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 We like
Legs ain't got time to lay low. Your knees are bending, so it's time to get up and let go. Hey, mama, how's it going? Can see your body moving. Don't leave the party dying. Keep booty shaking, you know your head has no right to say no. Tonight it's ready, set, go. Baby, can you move around the rhythm so we can get with and jump around and get us a rock and roll round? Let's down, down, body, body, coming with the super hottie. Let's go, let's go, hell no. Baby, can you move around the rhythm? Cause you know we're living in the fast lane. Speed up, it ain't no game. Just turn up all the beams when I come upon the scene. Hey, brother, what you thinking? That good old sound is ringing. They don't know what they're missing. Legs ain't got time to lay low. Your knees are bending, so it's time to get up and let go. Hey, brother, listen steady. Put down your grip, you ready. It's hot when things get messy. Keep booty shaking, you know your head has no right to say no. Tonight it's ready, set, go. Baby, can you move?
We've got 15. We got 15. That's enough to hold back a gang. Oh, easy. Oh, fuck. There goes half the turrets. Are you gonna help him defend? Yeah, we're defending right now. We're probably doing just as much as half of the fucking alliance, laying right here. Okay.